This segment of the Alice Stewart Show is brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing at 1-866-PLUMBER or schedule an appointment online at aeroplumbing.net.
And we're back on the Alice Stewart Show, 7:34, my favorite segment of the week, Young Guns, where we talk about the issues that are making headlines with some young politicos and get their insight and perspective from the younger generation. Joined with Josh Blevins, former Young Democrats of Arkansas president and Blevins Investment Group chairman, and Jack Avery, Young Republicans of Arkansas chairman and key account manager at Rich Products Corporation. Jack and Josh, great to have you here.
Good morning.
And
Good morning.
Great to have you here. And I don't know if either one of you had the opportunity to watch the president speak yesterday at the United Nations General Assembly. It's a very important, big event. And he talked about the global war on terror. He spent the day before talking about global warming. Today he's expected to address Ebola. But yesterday he talked about the global war on terror and specifically with airstrikes now underway in Syria against ISIS. That was a focus. And the president issued a stern warning to those who are fighting for Islamic militants in Syria and Iraq. Here's the president.
Those who have joined ISIL should leave the battlefield while they can. Those who continue to fight for a hateful cause will find they are increasingly alone. For we will not succumb to threats, and we will demonstrate that the future belongs to those who build, not those who destroy.
Josh, your thoughts?
I thought it was a good speech. I don't think that anybody expected that we would that the main issue at this UN summit would end up being ISIL. I think the president made a good speech, a compelling speech. We had 5 Arab nations assist in the airstrikes in Syria the other day. We had France be the first European ally to participate in the new round of combat airstrikes in Iraq. So I think that the coalition is coming together, and best of luck to it.
Jack, your thoughts?
I couldn't help but wonder if George W. Bush was one of the ghostwriters for that speech, because many of Obama's words were similar to George W.'s Axis of Evil speech he gave back in 2001, 2002, prior to Iraq. Like Josh, I appreciate everything that the president had to say. I thought it was a good speech to give some hard talk about what's going on in the Middle East and building a coalition to combat this legitimate threat that we have going on over there. I'm also glad that he's ramping up his airstrikes over there, working with partners to do so. My only hope is that he is ready, along with his coalition partners, to excel efforts if this current strategy proves to be ineffective with this ISIS group.
And one of the things that he continues to do or not do is refer to them as radical Islamic terrorists. He calls them radical or extreme terrorists, and he's very careful and repeatedly not referring to Islam. And he, at the UN General Assembly, he made a special point to separate the Islam from the terror activity. Here's the president on that.
No God condones this terror. No grievance justifies these actions. There can be no reasoning, no negotiation with this brand of evil.
Jack, your thoughts on his really calculated efforts to make sure that this is not about the Islam religion?
Well, I think it honestly is a little silly. They have Islam in the name of their title, whether it's Islamic State in Syria or Islamic State in Libya. These terrorists, this terrorist group, wholly embraces a very radical thought of Islam and uses that as a rationale to conduct these atrocious crimes in the Middle East. So I think we need to be calling it what it is. These folks are radical Muslims, and they're doing terrible, terrible things to good people in the Middle East.
Josh?
Well, they are doing it in the name of Islam. There's no question about that. But there are people who who commit terrorist attacks in the name of almost all religions around the world. It's important to remember that, of the world's 7 billion people, 1.2 billion of them are Muslims, and so the president is not just factoring in domestic political considerations. He's also factoring in world opinion, and he's also factoring in the opinion that's on the so often talked about Arab street, the folks who are on the ground, who are citizens, average everyday people in the countries in which we undertake some of these combat operations, some of these airstrikes. And so it's important that as best as possible, we try to accomplish what we need to accomplish militarily without alienating these populations, or else we're going to keep fomenting exactly the kind of negative attitudes towards the Western world that we're trying to combat.
Another concern that many have, rightly so, is that we have people that are, say, leaving America, or even the British are concerned with this, leaving their country, going to that region, being radicalized and trained, and returning to their home country and committing these acts of terror back in the homeland. And that is a serious concern. I know some members of Congress, Michelle Bachmann being one, introducing legislation to make sure that those who leave here, and we know that they are engaging in that, their passports are taken away and they're not allowed back in the country. Here's the president addressing that specific aspect of the threat that we are all facing.
They pose an immediate threat to people in these regions. And as we've already seen in several cases, they may try to return to their home countries to carry out deadly attacks.
Josh, how that concern is something so great, and how important is it to make sure that that's addressed by all nations?
I actually agree with Michelle Bachmann here. I don't know that I've ever said that before in my life.
Were you recording that, Jessica? Jessica, we do have that on tape. I don't believe that.
Yeah, just run that over and over. But when Barack Obama, authorized an airstrike on Anwar al-Awlaki, when he has authorized strikes on American citizens who have fought overseas with sworn enemies of the United States, there has been in the past an outrage from those on the right about and on the left, I'll admit, about the president attacking American citizens and essentially ordering their death, even though they're fighting alongside those who have sworn to wipe America off the face of the planet. And I think this is a good law. The nature of warfare has changed. We're not always fighting nation states. We're oftentimes fighting terrorist organizations. And I think it's a good. I think there should be a mechanism by which the United States can say, "Listen, you're no longer one of our citizens. You've launched jihad against the United States, and we consider you the enemy."
Right, Jack.
Well, to highlight something that Josh said about, wars going on, world wars going on, the Pope recently said, actually it was last week, that there could be a third type of world war, whether it be fought piecemeal with crimes, massacres, and destructions. We see this occurring in the Middle East, who are making a concerted effort to recruit folks that are not only in the Middle East, but in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in other Western European nations. Even David Cameron has highlighted that he has concern that folks are being recruited and may come back and pose a threat to the British. So we need to treat this threat very seriously, and we need to make sure that we're treating it as though exactly what it is, a radical terrorist group whose foundations are in Islam, and we need to squash it as quickly as we can.
Absolutely.
I saw statistics the other day from the National Counterterrorism Center that said up to 15,000 foreign fighters have come to the region to join and fight alongside ISIL. 2,000 of those they estimate to be from Europe, and over 100 or around 100 from the United States. I was shocked when I saw that number. I don't think that Americans realize how that there are, at least a handful of our countrymen that are fighting alongside these terrorist groups.
Right, and we heard right out of the gate when this first came out a lot from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, a lot of the folks from there. So it's a concern with them possibly coming back to our country. We're going to take a break and discuss more about America's military and our current president and former presidents with Jack Avery and Josh Blevins on the Alice Stewart Show. This segment of the program brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all of your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing at 1-866-PLUMBER or schedule an appointment online at aeroplumbing.net.